What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Brody, joined by Tudong Dylan
Hey,
and the Beyonce of these Destiny's Child, Charlie Hickman.
I can
the
honestly
science
tell you
works
that
out.
you are not ready for this jelly. With great certainty, I
well.
can say that.
It's true. And authority.
All right. Well, while you're here, we'd love to interact with you. So make sure that you comment down below or send us an email at talktalkpunch.com or talktalkpunch@gmail.com. You can also go to TalkTalk. That's fine for the podcast. And when you comment down below, just please be nice about it, just like our friend Adam Hathaway. What's up,
Hey.
Adam? Grateful that you are one of our friends. Also,
Thank you, Adam.
whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening in on the audio podcast, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you go ahead and hit the thumbs up or star rating, any of the things that help us out with that algorithm. We really appreciate it. Systems actually look at that stuff, so it is actually really helpful. Really, really did that. And then you got to subscribe, or else Dylan is going to come to your house and he's going to tear off all the labels from all your canned goods, and you're going to have no idea. No idea what's in that pantry. All those canned goods, you're going to go for some beans? Nope. Canned corn.
Oh, what a disappointment that is. And there's no way you can find out without opening it. A terrible thing.
And once it's open, you got to open it. You got to eat it.
You got to eat it. You can't just leave it there. It's canned good for a reason.
Yep. And then after you subscribe, you can easily come back here every Wednesday to hang out with us and see what we're talking about. Kind of like this week's topic. So we are doing, previously we did a top 3 movies that shouldn't have had sequels. Now we're going on the other side of that, and we're saying the top 3 movies where the sequel was better than the original.
Yeah.
I actually thought that this was going to be a harder list to make when we got this. And then I started going, and I had a hard time like just picking 3. I could have made a top 10 of this. How about you guys? How do you feel about this? How'd you build these lists?
Yeah, this was like a pretty open-ended. There's a lot of movies that qualify. So I like to put parameters on myself that I have no expectation that you guys put on yourselves, to try to maybe eliminate certain crossover things. So for my own methodology, if there were multiple sequels in the franchise, I would not pick a movie where there was a worse movie that came after the sequel. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
like I love Thor Ragnarok, but that's the best one in the series, so it's disqualified from my list because there's ones that come after it that aren't as good as it. Now, that's not how I expect you guys to have built your lists, but it did lead me to some interesting movies that I think will be fun to talk about. We'll see.
I can honestly say that every movie on my list has an inferior sequel directly right after these. And what I did was I made sure to only choose number 2s, part 2s. No, like,
Nice.
Part 3s or 4s, like in Rocky, part 4 is better than 1, which, I mean, I'm just throwing that as an example. So I made sure to do part 2s, and they definitely, each one has inferior sequels.
Nice.
And then for me, the criteria I kind of put on myself was I wanted sequels that I thought so outshined the original that you could even just skip the original. You could just say, you know what? If this is a person that's never seen any of these movies, just go straight to this one. This one is like the best one. You could skip the original. No,
One of my
it sounds like what was that?
One of my lists is exactly like that.
So it sounds like we all kind of went about. So I'm really curious to see how this turns out.
When we all have like 3 or 4 crossovers, it'll be great.
I
Won't make any sense, but
right?
we'll end up there.
All right. Well, let's get started. I don't remember the order.
Excellent.
Okay.
So
Well, put
Let's
it up. Put up
let's
the
see it.
movie.
Let's see it.
Let's just jump to it, and we'll see. We'll figure out the order once we get through the number threes. All right, number 3 is Charlie's pick.
Hey.
All right. All right. So this was a pretty easy one for me. There has not been, I think, a sequel to a film that I was so sure was going to be bad just when I heard it announced. I was so sure I wasn't gonna like that I ended up just absolutely loving.
Yeah.
This one. I mean, we don't need to talk about it. This was great. Everybody loves this. This was made a ton of money at the box office. It's got the beautiful mix of nostalgia and non CGI action, and my boy Tommy C staying
Yeah.
forever young out there, both simultaneously making me feel young because he's still making movies and making me feel incredibly old and out of shape because he's like jumping off of planes and I'm like, I kind of hurt my back bending over today to pick up something for my kids. So the glory and the shame of Tom Cruise. But yeah, this is a really fun movie and a really an excellent well done sequel that far outshines the original.
Hey, great. This is a really good
Nice.
pick. I didn't even think
Excellent.
about this one. This is a really and this,
Very, very
according to Steven Spielberg, this movie saved cinemas.
Yeah, that's right. That's what he said.
All right, Tudong,
Is the next
I
one
think
mine?
it's you.
Let's see.
Ha,
It
it
is.
is.
It is me. Superman 2. This is actually one of, if not the first movies I ever saw in my entire life, like in the theater. I don't know who brought me. I don't know if my parents brought me. I don't know why they would. But either way, I will absolutely.
Just showed up in a theater one day.
Yeah, it's like, let's go watch Superman 2. I'm like, all right, why are these people hitting Superman? He's a nice guy. Um, but I mean, the first one had Marlon Brando, and a lot of times, like if I was putting up like The Godfather and Godfather Part 2, they would get it because of him. But he's not in. He's in the first one. He's not in the second one. But Terrence Stamp as General Zod, kneel before Zod, and one of the best lines I've ever heard in my life. He's like, "Why do you say this to me when you know I will kill you for it?" And I'm like, I love that. Like, wow. But his performance, as well as everybody else's, I think is fantastic. Christopher Reed had a excellent read on Superman, and he was at his peak with Superman too. Lois Lane as well. Jimmy Olsen, all the people, everybody. Lex Luthor was hilarious, especially since some of it wasn't even him. He like walked off the set after they fired Richard Donner. But as a kid, I watched this growing up, and I absolutely continually watched it more than I saw the original, which may or may not be argued to be a better movie. But this one is, in my opinion, a much better and much my favorite. Eclipses the first one. I love
I agree. I think the first one slow.
it. Needed a
All right.
lot more kneel before Zod.
Oh yeah. Do you prefer 2 or do you prefer the Donner cut?
You know what? I prefer 2 mainly because that's what I've seen about 40 or 50 times probably. I have seen the Donner cut, and I think the Donner cut's really good. I like the Donner cut a lot. But I'll always gravitate towards what I know. That Donner cut was excellent though. You guys have both seen it, right?
Maybe.
Oh,
The
Let's
Donner
say
cut
yes.
got rid of the cellophane shield weird thing at the end. Like, I didn't know
always
that
found
was his
funny.
power.
I had no clue he had one of is that what that does? And it's still there. He still had his shield still on there. I was like, how interesting. Christopher Reeves can do whatever he wants.
All right. Well, it looks like I am up next. So my number 3 is a movie that I actually just watched recently. And it's a third in the series of 6. And that's Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going
Yeah.
through the Mission Impossible movies with my kids, showing them the Mission Impossible movie.
Nice.
We sat down and I was like, you know what? Let's start with 1. And we started going through it, and it's a bit slow. The talking is like very very quiet. Maybe it was just like the Amazon audio compression, but like I could not hear anything they were saying. We started getting
Subtitles,
through
bro.
it.
It's an old movie.
My kids don't like subtitles. I love subtitles. My kids don't.
I, I,
And I don't know. It just like I could tell that like my kids weren't to it. And so we actually just stopped it and jumped right to 3. We just stopped the first one completely. We didn't
you
even
didn't see
finish watching it.
2? You didn't see
No,
2?
I'm not going to show my kids 2. They don't need to.
Why not? They would love it. There's lots
No,
of action. There's no real plot. I mean, kids these days, come on.
no, 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 no. So we actually are starting at 3. We've watched 3 and 4, and so maybe this week.
They're
Wait,
gonna ask.
maybe we'll
They're gonna
some more.
ask if the agent that Ethan Hunt trained in the beginning made it seem like that was his daughter or something like that is in part 1 or part 2. And have you said like, yeah, no, not even close. We have no clue who this person is.
No, and it's fine. They do that with like all the movies. Just some random agent who. But this,
That's
but
true.
but
That's true.
3 is great.
true.
3
That's
3
3
is
is
great,
great.
and it's so good. And I feel like 3 really like it almost felt like a reset or like reboot of the series, and really like from there, it really just gets good. All the Mission Impossible movies. This has become one of my favorite franchises
Hmm.
since 3. I remember seeing 1 and enjoying it, and then I remember seeing 2 and being like, I don't know about that. And then 3 and I was like, I'm in. And then 4 and 5 is it, and all of them. I just get so excited now. So I think if I were to recommend anybody to start the Mission Impossible movie, say they're getting ready for Dead Reckoning this summer, they're like, where should I start? Just skip 1 and 2. Just go straight to 3. It's totally fun.
It's true. It's true.
There. All right. So now we know the orders
Nice.
of Charlie. You're number 2.
My number 2 is a trilogy that really did something incredibly unique, and just impossible that it worked. Absolutely impossible. It is a beautiful trilogy of movies that I'm sure that neither of you guys have seen. And it starts off with a wonderful 1995 film. You get a little Before Sunrise with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, and you get to fall in love. And in the 90s, 95, as a young man, this was a wildly romantic movie to me, who as a young man who was in love with the idea of falling in love. 9 years later, the sequel. You can put the thing up, bro, if you want.
Oh,
Talking about the movies. 9 years later, we get a sequel. 9 years later, in real time and in story time, we get these characters back, and they're 9 years older. I'm 9 years older. I'm in a different life stage. They're in a different life stage, and we get the sequel. And then 9 more years later, we get the third installment, and there's like
wow.
just no way that they can keep making these better. And yet, my goodness, and mind you, now I'm 18 years older at this point from when I saw the first movie. Actually, maybe 19 years older from when I saw the first movie, because I think I saw it in '96 on DVD. But that's neither here nor there. But what a beautiful, poignant story, and it's just like so well done. Incredible dialogue. It's so like it's so conversational and natural. It's romantic. It's heartbreaking. It's poignant. They have these kind of ambiguous open-ended endings that you're like, oh man, you can kind of imagine what's happening, and then all of a sudden, bam, they're back 9 years later. 2022, no new movie, so it's over now. But really good. And the last one, it just hits like at the life stage that I'm at. All of these, just different life stages. If you imagine your own life, 18 years ago, if someone just dropped in on it and then said, well, I'll see you in 9 years, and then dropped in on it and then say, hey, I'll see you in 9 years, how you've changed, how your life has changed. And just such a really cool that they were able to do this with the actors and just kind of see them age and see their characters develop. And I'm trying to talk about this without spoiling anything, because I think it is really fun to watch without really knowing what happens to these characters, even though there's sequels now at this point. I don't know that these are good movies to binge in a row. So you might have just missed it, because waiting 9 years for the sequel and then another 9 years for the sequel was like so cool. Because you changed so much in that time. Whereas I don't know if it'd be as satisfying to just watch all three, bam, 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 and then you're kind of like, like that's a
What?
lot of life that just happened in three short movies. But
Wait, what's the movie called?
Before Midnight is the third one. So
Oh,
Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, the Before trilogy. But man, they're good, really good. If you're in the
Never
mood
seen
for
them.
a good fall in love kind of movie, watch them.
So, are you saying that the second one is better than the first one?
Yes, and I'm saying the third one is better than the second one. So progressively better each time, and that could just be a life stage thing. I don't know that I would feel that way if I watched them all in a row for the very first time, but I feel that way now as an old man watching that third one. And, it's a tearjerker, and it is poignant, and it deals with like, hey, it's our lives get more complicated as we get older. There's just more things that are surrounding us that add complications, and it's just never quite as simple as that 1995. Let's just fall in love for a little while, walking around a city talking. But man, what a great story, and a really cool trilogy of films that gets better each one.
Nice.
All right. Tudong.
My number 2 choice isn't going to be a surprise to most people, and that is Evil Dead 2. It
Yeah,
is such a good sequel that it's many people. I remember my brother was trying to get me to watch this, and he was like, "You've got to watch this, Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness or any of those." And so finally, he sits me down. And he's like, "You got to watch Evil Dead 2." And I was like, "I don't want to see it." And I'm like, "I haven't even seen Evil Dead 1." And he's like, "You don't have to see that. It's kind of a remake." And then it's also a kind of a sequel. It's like a sequel make make requel. I don't like requel. Ugh. But either way,
You okay there, Tudong?
I'm like,
a mini stroke there, no big deal.
But this movie is what people think of when they think of the Evil Dead trilogy. It's what they think of when they hear about, they hear the name Ash or Bruce Campbell, and for even Sam Raimi, who surprisingly directed this. Now he's a prestigious, director. Um, but this one, they upped the kind of the humor, and it's a absolutely phenomenal movie. It's easily one of my like favorite movies right here, and and it's a sequel. And I didn't even see the first one for years. And then when I did, I was like, yeah, all right. But phenomenal movie, phenomenal sequel, surpassed the original, and easily number 2 right here. The only reason that it's not my number 1 is because number 1 is technically, in my opinion, so good. But this will always have a special place in my heart. Definitely.
I remember way back when at you guys arguing, and really probably more just about whether Evil Dead 2 was a sequel,
Yeah.
remake, or a
Those are
sequel.
fun Denny's conversations. We should bring that back.
Late night at Denny's.
Ah, those were the days.
Hold it.
Yeah.
All right. My number 2 is
Yeah.
oh yeah,
So much suspense.
it's The Dark Knight. Now
That's your number 2? That's
it's
your
my number 2. Yeah.
Unbelievable, bro.
Oh yeah.
Interstellar's just number one.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Interstellar is not a sequel. How is this your number 2, bro? I'm flabbergasted. I'm hurt.
This
I
is an
don't
amazing
understand.
movie. And this is my number 2 because I know that I say like, yes, you can skip the first one and go right to it. But I would still say after you watch Dark Knight, if you like it, go back and watch number 1. Like Batman Begins is still good. But Dark Knight is like so much better. So if somebody came to me and they said, "Brody, you really like Batman. I've never seen a Batman movie. What movie should I watch?" Just
And I'll only watch one.
and I'll only watch one. I would say The Dark Knight. I like that would be okay. You're gonna see Batman. You're gonna skip all the origin stuff, going right into Batman. You're getting Joker. You're getting like all this stuff that you're familiar with. You get the Batman Jim Gordon relate. Getting Batman like actually working. You're from the beginning. You're getting Batman. You get Batman all the way through. So this would be the one where I'm like, yeah, no, go watch The Dark Knight. And I would say, yeah, go watch Batman Begins too. It's fun, it's good. It's not as good, you're going to take a step down from Dark Knight if you go back and watch.
Which is
And
why you
then
should watch Batman Begins first.
you could, but like I said, if somebody came to me and they're like, "I'm only going to watch one. I've never seen one
Yeah,
before.
well,
What do
that's
I
true.
watch?" I would say The
That
Dark
makes
Knight.
sense. That
And
makes
so
sense.
yeah, The
That makes
Dark
logical
Knight
sense.
just is man, it's just like this step up from Batman Begins. Like the writing, this was where Jonah Nolan came in and writing. We didn't have as much David Goyer,
Oh,
silly one-liners and stuff like that. Like the story was just so much better. They did improvements on the suit. It was just like overall just so much cooler. The villain we got Joker is like iconic now Joker. And to remember that like there was no Joker before this besides Nicholson. And even when they
mhm.
said, "Oh, we're going to get Nicholson, we're going to get Joker in." Who else was there? There was no one.
Well, there was the Adam West Joker. There was Caesar
But
Romero.
I mean like since Nicholson.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true.
So we went like Nicholson, and then forever, you guys probably remember, forever they were like, no one else can play the Joker. Like Nicholson has made that such an iconic role.
Hmm.
And then there was this fear of like, what are they going to do? They're going to bring another Joker in. Can he even compare to Nicholson? And then he like
Wow.
blew it out the water, and now everybody gets compared to how great Legend. So this one, this is so good. My number one. I
Oh,
really like,
bro.
I really like Batman Big. But
You're my number 2 movie.
so there you go. There's my number two. Dark.
It's a
All
good.
right.
It's a good pick.
All right.
Show up
Number
on
1,
somebody else's list.
we've got our first crossover, although mine is a little bit I'm gonna frame it a little bit different than you did, bro. Uh,
Interesting.
I have the
Not
Mission
Dark Knight.
Impossible franchise number 1, and I put this at 1 ahead of the Before trilogy because I think like all 3 of those movies, the Befores, are all really really good, and I do think they get better, but I think they're all really really good, and I can understand that some of the early Mission Impossibles are a little clunky, a little bit rough. I will, however, posit that I believe that each Mission Impossible movie is better than the one that came before it. And I know that I'll get maybe some feedback from you guys that that's not true because you guys probably like one better than two, and that's fair.
I do.
I'm not gonna argue with anybody that likes one better than two or even one better than three. That's I take one is like certainly a more intelligent like espionage thriller, which if
Sure.
that's what you're kind of into, like that's your jam. I do feel like when they went from 1 to 2, they're like, you know what? People were really confused by a lot of what we did in 1 because we had like a lot of not, it wasn't even just like you had to really think. It was like there was like random segues of like scenes that didn't happen that exist. And if you're, especially if you watch movies, like my wife and I watch movies at times where it's on, but you're kind of also doing you're multitasking. That would
Sure.
be a really easy movie to be like, wait, what? What happened? There's like a whole scene here that it's confusing. And so they kind of came in hot on number 2, and they're like, you know what we need? Action. We'll build back from the action. And they didn't really build back all that well, but there was a lot of really cool action sequences, and it was nice. And Tom Cruise had bangs, like really cool bangs,
Oh,
He
his
did
hair
have
was
cool
so
awe-inspiring
cool.
bangs.
hair.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was
Uh,
so cool.
By the
and
way, I'd
then
like to point out how cool Charlie's hair is in this episode.
Oh, Charlie, your,
Very
your
cool.
hair is on
Very
point
cool.
tonight, man.
Hmm.
well, you guys are very sweet. I wish I could. You guys both have lovely heads. So so then like 2 to 3, I thought they did like you could see like they're getting it. They're like what they're it's almost like they're like in real time, and by real time I mean like 4-year gaps or whatever, but you're kind of seeing them figure out what the franchise is supposed to be. And then from that point on, like you can't argue like 3 to 4, 4 better, 4 to 5, 5 better, 5 to
Ah,
6, 6 better. And now we're entering into this 7th movie, and Tom Cruise is now older than John Voight was in 1996.
really?
And he's still, yeah, he's so Voight was 58, and Tommy was he's in his 60s now. So this is gonna be something else because he's gonna be there's like you can watch footage of him jumping motorcycles off of cliffs. I mean, the guy just
Wow.
man, yeah, good old TC. But the movies just keep getting better, and they've even talked about how they make them now. They decide like they build it backwards from these big mega stunts. Like, okay, we're gonna climb the world's tallest building here. We're gonna do this, and we'll figure out the plot later. And they do a good enough job filling in an entertaining enough plot with these jaw-dropping action sequences, like him hanging off of a literal plane, and that guy's an animal doing all his own stunts. But just I think it's so hard to do to have a franchise where everybody kind of knows what you're doing, and yet still somehow make each movie progressively better than the one that came
Yeah.
before it. And it's not something that James Bond or any of these other big franchises, I think, have really been able to pull off. See, even the MCU struggling with that now, to continuously make sequel after sequel in a genre where everybody knows what you're doing, everybody kind of knows what to expect, and yet still somehow walk out of that theater and go, "Wow, that was great! That was even better than the last one." So really cool what they're doing and how they're building this Hunt universe. And I'm really excited for the next ones, and hopefully they don't blow this whole thing and they're going to be terrible, and then I'm going to come on here and do a whole mea culpa about how bad the new Mission Impossibles are. But I
I
believe in you,
I don't
TC.
think I don't think that they're gonna be bad. They just you're totally right. They just keep getting better, and they have like Tom Cruise is like super involved with it now, and we get Query doing directing. He's directed like a number of them. I don't even know how
Yeah.
many. So as long as they're still doing it and having fun and making good movies, man, they can just
Keep going.
Usually when a movie builds a story around like a stunt, they really don't give a lot of attention to the story. And I mean, they give a lot of attention to the stories.
Yeah.
They don't just slough off that kind of work. They put a
Yeah.
lot of effort in, which is really cool. I think
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they built it around the stunt, which I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
also
Agreed.
I'm so excited to watch this scene with my kids. They are gonna flip.
I've already shown this scene to my daughter, bro. I don't know what you've been waiting for.
All right. Well, this is an excellent pick, Charlie.
I'm glad you like it, bro. I can't wait for RoboCop 2 to be your number one. All right, Dylan, what do you
Just
got?
you wait. All right, Tudong.
My number one, it's another crossover. It happens to be The Dark Knight. I think that it is an excellent. I knew you were going to have it. I knew you were going to have that particular picture, so I put in the other picture because of Heath Ledger's unbelievable performance. I also have to say, uh, Gary Oldman, he played a really good Commissioner Gordon in this movie, and at the very end, he gets doesn't get a lot of credit. A lot of people talk about a lot of the other actors' performance, and they deserve it. It's because they were really great. But at that last scene where Two Face, yeah, spoiler, I guess, when Two Face is threatening his family, at the very end before Batman tackles him, I was just his acting was so good. I actually remember thinking to myself, is he really going to shoot this kid? Is he really going to shoot this kid? Like, poor Jim Gordon. What's going on here? The music was swelling and it was tense,
Good
and
score.
his acting was just unbelievable. Like I said, a lot of people, the other actors, and that's great. But I wanted to give a lot of credit to him in this movie because that last scene, it really it blew me out of the water, even though I was blown out of the water by the other performances. Like that last
Mhm.
bit when he looks like that's exactly what he's saying. It gets me every time. I almost start getting choked up just because of his performance, because it is unbelievable. Gary Oldman, you don't get a lot of credit for your acting. Nobody really talks about what a great actor you are.
It's
I'm
never
saying
been
that
done.
sarcastic. It's never been done, but he
He's
is
great on
excellent.
Slow Horses, by the way, on Apple. It's a short TV show. You guys could absolutely watch it. He's fantastic.
What's TV? Bro, I can't believe you didn't back me up right there. Either way, my number one pick that Brody has already kind of discussed is The Dark Knight, because it is an excellent movie by itself, and it totally blew its predecessor out of the water, which was already excellent. And remember seeing it in the theaters, and every time I see it, I remember like that. It brings me back to that. It's really cool.
I agree.
I think I know what your number one is, Brody.
Do you? What's your
What
guess?
is it? Yeah, what is it?
My guess is Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Or no,
Charlie,
no,
it
or yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you know me. Like you
Yeah.
know me.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Oh my goodness. I know that we have talked about Terminator 2 and
So
how
good.
it how much it surpassed Terminator 1. Terminator 1, it's great, right?
It's
It's
great.
great for kind of what it is. But the step between Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 is so monumental.
Yeah.
like Terminator 2 is this like masterpiece of an action film. Like it
That's
has
true.
everything. It's bigger on everything. The special effects are better. You get more like a better Arnold in T2 than you get in T1. Like more story. It's like way more epic. It's just everything is like turned way up and it all
Mhm.
works till you have this amazing Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Oh my goodness. This was the first thing that I thought of when I was putting together this list, and I was like, "Oh man, it's probably going to be on all of our lists, though." And I
I
almost
knew it'd be
didn't
on
put it
yours.
on. I almost didn't put it on because I was like, "It's going to be like a three-way crossover." But I'm so glad that I did because nobody else put it on their list. But oh
Yeah.
my goodness, this movie is so good. And if
Yeah.
anybody were to say like, "Hey, like I've never watched a Terminator movie. Like, what should I do?" I'd be like, yes, there's some like loose strands that you may kind of miss out on by if you skipped to Terminator 1, right? Like you would kind of miss why Sarah's a bit freaked out by seeing Arnold and stuff like that. But like, oh, to just have somebody go and watch Terminator 2, like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. And so yeah, this was I honestly like I struggled. I was like, is this my number one or is this my number two? Do I make Dark Knight my number one? And I was
Can't
just like,
believe you,
oh,
bro. Can't believe you.
but
You
like
gotta hand in your tattoo, bro. You gotta take the tattoo right off.
Gotta take it
the
off now.
I feel and this is my number one because the step from Terminator to Terminator 2 is so much bigger than the step from Batman Begins to Dark Knight.
That's a terrible excuse.
It's
Terrible
that's what
excuse.
this list is about. It's about like that's whole the whole list is about sequels that were better. So this is so much
Preposterous,
better
bro.
than Terminator 1.
Preposterous.
And
All I
Terminator
have to
1's
say.
still great. Don't get me wrong. I know that there's people that love Terminator 1. I love Terminator 1. But man, Terminator 2 just like shot it way up. So good.
What
So
was your
good.
favorite scene? Favorite scene. Don't think. Just say it. What's your favorite scene?
Him going through the mall followed by the
Yeah.
with the motorcycle. And him okay, here it is. Here it is. Him uh reloading the shotgun by just doing the
Oh
flick thing.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
still do that. If my kids bust out like a Nerf gun, I'm like, I spin it like
Yeah.
I'm reloading it, like just like Arnold. Man,
That's
so
cool.
good, so good. So there it is. There's my number.
I thought you were about to say that whenever you hold a shotgun at your kids, we're gonna have to have a different conversation here. But
Yeah,
no,
I
it's Nerf
know.
guns. Okay, got it. I'm all
No,
caught
we
up.
have giant Nerf wars, man. I always try to flick it like that, and then always just like Arnold, just like Arnold.
That's cool.
All right, well, good list, everybody. You guys have anything else to add to this?
I will say that if you have never seen any of the Terminator movies, you should absolutely watch the first Terminator movie and then watch the second one and then stop.
And then
Oh
stop,
yeah.
stop. Don't
Yeah.
watch anymore.
Stop.
Don't
So
watch
you
anymore.
watch two movies. It's good. It's good for you. Watch two. That's it. One and then two. Done.
It's like the Alien movies. You don't need to go
What's
to
going to
three.
happen is you're going to watch the second one and you like it so much, you're going to think, well, maybe I'll just watch the first one. And that's the wrong order to do it in. So watch the first one, then watch the second
Then
one,
the second one.
and
Yeah.
then done. Forever. Pack it up. Don't watch anymore.
I know.
Nothing but
So
this.
just some honorable mentions, like because I'm sure people will. Uh, Empire Strikes Back, I think is better than Star
Empire.
Wars,
Yep. Empire Strikes Back. That's a good
but
one.
Star Wars is still such a phenomenal movie that I would never tell anybody just start at Empire. I
Yeah.
would
No.
never say that. You mentioned
A lot.
Aliens was another one I thought about, but like Alien and Aliens they are so close.
Yeah. It's tough. Because one is a horror thriller and the other is a horror action.
Yeah,
So it's expertly done by masters in their fields. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
But there was.
What about Civil War?
I actually thought about putting Winter Soldier on my because I thought
Yeah.
Winter Soldier was a pretty big step up from.
And for other cinephiles, I know some people would put The Godfather Part 2. I personally wouldn't. I like give me some Brando at every moment, but some people would put The Godfather 2 with De Niro in there as one of theirs. We respect it, cinephiles.
Some other people might put Godfather 3.
Oh, no. It's preposterous, folks. Preposterous. Just stop it, too.
I have it on good
Stop it,
authority
too.
that that's Andy Garcia's favorite Godfather movie.
Oh. And no.
It's only when he's in. He likes it. There's some good Toy Story sequels that like the and up until 4 they kept doing that thing where it was like getting better and better, and then I didn't think 4 was nearly as good as 3. But
go watch
It's almost
our
appropriate.
movies that didn't need a sequel.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie, go ahead and take us home.
Well, thank you so much. If you're interested in a sequel to this podcast, make sure you come back next week and see what we got planned for you. If you want to see some other videos, you don't want to wait the week, make sure you check out the content below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe below that beautifully conditioned beard over there. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.